The laugh echoed louder than the impact. Tires screeched, fur flew. The German Shepherd's body hit the pavement with a sickening thud, rolling twice before coming to a stop near the sidewalk. People screamed, horns blared. A mother covered her child's eyes. But the motorcyclist, he just kept laughing. He didn't even look back. Wearing a sleeveless leather vest and mirrored glasses, the rider revved the engine once more and sped off, leaving only the sound of mocking laughter lingering like smoke. In the air, a single collar tag slid across the road in the chaos, clinking softly until it rested beside the dog's unmoving paw. It didn't say Buddy. It didn't say Max. It read one word, K9, 2 blocks away. Officer Travis Boone slammed his brakes and threw open the squad car door. He couldn't breathe. There was a smell of burning rubber and fear. A faint trail of dust was settling in the sunlight. And in the middle of the chaos, surrounded by a gathering crowd, was Valor, his partner. The K9 wasn't moving. Travis's heart dropped through his chest. His boots hit the pavement hard as he sprinted toward the motionless German Shepherd, each step like a thunderclap inside his skull. The crowd parted when they saw the badge on his chest and the look in his eyes. He dropped to his knees beside Valor. Blood. A trickle at the mouth. Chest shallow. Travis swallowed the panic. No. No. Not like this. He rested a trembling. Hand on Valor's ribcage, still breathing, barely. Medic, he barked. I need a unit here now. But then something strange happened. Valor's left paw twitched. Then his nose flared as if catching a scent. His ears rose just a bit. Like radar, Travis's heart skipped. You're awake. But Valor didn't look at him. The dog's gaze was locked, not in confusion or fear, but focus. Fierce, trained. He was still on duty, and then came the loop. As Travis reached to lift Valor's battered body into his arms, the K9 suddenly pushed up, growling low. Eyes locked on something behind Travis. He turned, just in time to see a black motorcycle helmet rolling out from under a nearby parked van. No rider, just the helmet. And a folded note tucked inside. Travis's fingers trembled as he pulled. The paper free, it was addressed to Valor. They think it's an accident, but I know you remember me, dog. Finish what you started. M. Travis's jaw clenched. This wasn't road rage. It was a hit on a K9 on purpose. 6 years ago, officer. Travis Boone never believed in second chances. Not after Fallujah. He had returned from deployment with nothing but a limp, a discharge letter, and a haunting silence in his head. Friends gone. Purpose gone. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the distant echo of detonations and the screams of the civilians he couldn't save. He tried everything, VA visits, therapy, pills. Nothing worked until he met Valor. They called the German Shepherd a hard case, too aggressive, too smart, too stubborn to obey. 3 handlers had failed him. He nearly got pulled from the K9 program entirely. But when Travis entered the kennel, broken and hollow, something passed between them. Neither wagged a tail. Neither extended trust. They just stared, and then Valor sat, silent, still. From that moment, it was like they could read each other's minds. The department gave them 1 month to prove it would work. By the end of the 2nd week, they were already a legend in the precinct. Explosive, detection, narcotics, human tracking, suspect takedowns. Valor wasn't just a dog, he was a weapon, a protector, Taz's soul with a badge. But Valor didn't just sniff out bombs, he sniffed out the ghosts inside Travis. During panic attacks, Valor would press his head against Travis's chest, grounding him. During nightmares, the dog would sit beside the bed. Never sleeping, never blinking, just watching until the shadows passed. He wasn't a pet. He was the reason Travis was still breathing. And now Travis watched the blood pooling beneath him, the corners of that shredded K9 vest soaked in red. Clenched the note again. The edges were oily and crumpled, but the words were clear. Finish what you started. His mind raced. Who? What had they started? He couldn't recall anyone named M. But Valor's reaction had been primal. He knew that scent. He remembered. Travis looked around. Paramedics were arriving. A young officer tried to speak to him, but the words were just white noise. All Travis could see was the faint burn mark across Valor's left ear, a scar from their last undercover op, the one they'd closed 9 months ago, or thought they had. Travis whispered to him, voice cracking. "You know who it is, don't you? This wasn't a hit and run, he came for you." Valor let out a low rumbling growl, broken and weak but deliberate, the sound of recognition. Travis looked down at the note again, and that's when something even stranger clicked. The handwriting. It wasn't new, it wasn't fresh. It was almost identical to the threat letter Travis received last year. A letter dismissed by Internal Affairs, a letter from a case they sealed and buried, but now it was back. And this time it wasn't targeting Travis. It was targeting the dog who had stopped it the first time. Only this time, someone made sure Valor wouldn't be standing when the next phase began. Travis's jaw clenched as the gurney arrived. He stood, voice cold but steady. "Get him to county. Tell them to prep for emergency trauma and keep a guard at the door." The medic blinked. A guard? For a dog? Travis didn't look away. He's not just a dog. The emergency lights flickered across the hospital walls like sirens frozen in place. Travis paced the waiting room, every second dragging behind like a chain. Through the narrow glass window, he could see Valor's chest rising and falling beneath the oxygen mask, a series of wires crawling out from his ribs. The surgeon's words looped in his head. "He's lucky. The bike missed his spine by inches. Internal bruising, fractured ribs. We stabilized him, but he needs rest and he's not out of the woods." Valor wasn't built to rest. Travis knew that, and deep down, he knew Valor didn't care about recovery. Not yet. Not until the job was done. The note had changed everything, and Travis couldn't shake the gut feeling that someone had triggered a fuse he thought was long dead. He pulled out the old file from his duffel bag. The case nobody wanted to talk about. Operation Ghost Collar. It had started 9 months ago, a chain of bomb threats across county lines. They were chasing shadows. No fingerprints, no clear suspects, just cryptic letters left at abandoned locations, all signed M. But the trail went cold after a major bust, an underground warehouse on the outskirts of town. Travis and Valor had tracked a suspect there, a man named Curtis Dale, known for running illegal bike parts and laundering cash for extremist groups. Valor had sniffed out a buried compartment with explosive residue. Enough for a warrant, enough to put Dale away for 20 years. But just before sentencing, Dale had cut a deal, gave up a name in exchange for protection, a name Travis never got to hear. The case was sealed. The warehouse torched in an accidental fire. Internal Affairs shut the file, but Travis knew. So did Valor. The job wasn't finished. Now someone had opened that case again with a motorcycle, a note, and a warning. They think it's an accident. Back at the hospital, Valor stirred. Travis entered the room slowly. Valor's eyes met. His clouded with sedation, but still fierce. He sat beside the bed, running a hand along Valor's bandaged side. "I think they're hunting us," he whispered. "And you scared them last time. That's why they came for you first." Valor blinked slowly. His tail gave the faintest thump. They were still in this, together. 2 nights later, the first clue appeared. Travis returned to his apartment after a shift. His security system had been tripped, but nothing was missing, except one thing: the original evidence photo of Curtis Dale's tattoo, an iron cross with a double snake coiled through it, a symbol Travis never could trace. But now, as he dug through Dale's old gang affiliations, something terrifying surfaced. That tattoo wasn't random. It belonged to a domestic terror cell called Iron Vow, disbanded a decade ago. Its members scattered, most in prison or presumed dead. Only one had never been caught, a biker, ex-military, went by the alias Maddox. No full name, no ID, just a legacy of chaos. And the sick part? Curtis Dale once mentioned, the dog saw him. That mutt locked eyes and knew. It hadn't made sense then, but now it clicked. Valor remembered something 9 months ago, something no report ever wrote down. He had looked Maddox in the eye, and now Maddox wanted the Kayensign dead before the dog could lead Travis to him. Travis revisited the warehouse site. What was left of it had been swallowed by weeds and rust. Fire had gutted the inside, but Valor had led them to something back then, beneath a broken floor panel, so Travis pried it up again. Dust, ash, a melted camera lens. He held it in the light, then paused. Behind the lens there was a chip, fire-damaged but intact. Back at the precinct, Travis bypassed protocol. Plugged it into his personal laptop. No case number, no log. He couldn't trust anyone anymore, not after IA buried the original lead. The file loaded slowly, surveillance footage. Grainy, dated 9 months ago, timestamp 02:17 a.m. It showed the back of the warehouse, 2 figures arguing. One was Curtis Dale, the other, Travis paused the video, black helmet, sleeveless vest. Then he froze it. Just for a second, the man turned toward the camera, the flash of a smile, wicked and twisted. Same man. Same laugh. Travis's heart stopped. The motorcyclist who hit Valor wasn't just Maddox. He was the one behind all of it. He had never stopped watching. That night, Travis returned to the hospital. He found a nurse unconscious in the hallway, struck on the head. The door to Valor's room was wide open. Inside, a syringe on the floor. The IV disconnected, and Valor missing, but no blood, no struggle, just a deep scratch across the tile floor. Like claws resisting as someone dragged him and taped to the wall above the empty bed. He remembers too much. But now, let's see what you remember, soldier. Rain started falling as Travis stood outside the hospital, staring at the broken IV line in his hand. His heart thudded like it was caught between a countdown and a trigger. For a second, he thought he'd lost him for good. But then he noticed something. 2 puncture marks in the tile, small and sharp, spaced evenly apart. Claw marks. Valor had fought back. Not only that, he had signaled. There was a pattern in the scratches. 3 short, 1 long, 2 short again. It was Morse code. Travis had taught it to him as a joke during surveillance drills. SL. South Lot. It wasn't over. Travis raced toward the hospital's lower-level garage, his boots echoing off cold cement. The place reeked of oil and antiseptic. Lights flickered overhead, and then he heard it. A faint bark. Weak. Echoing. He followed. The sound around a corner and stopped cold. There he was. Valor. Tied to a post. IV line still attached. Bloodied, but alive. Beside him, a phone duct taped to the floor, screen blinking. 029. 028. A countdown. Bomb. Travis didn't hesitate. He dove for the phone, ripped it from the tape, and hurled it into a nearby laundry bin, shielding Valor with his own body. Nothing. No explosion. Just a final beep. And silence. Then the phone screen lit up again. You failed. But he's not. The real target. Travis stared in disbelief. What? Then a text appeared. Check your apartment, TikTok. His stomach dropped. He raced back across town, every red light a curse. Bursting into his apartment, he searched for any signs of tampering. Everything was in place. Nothing stolen, except one thing. His gun locker, empty. He heard a whimper from the corner, a puppy tied to a chair. It hadn't been there before, a tag on its collar. See how it feels. That's when Travis realized the trap hadn't been to kill Valor. It was to distract him, to make him chase ghosts, while Maddox moved freely. A loud knock hit the door. Police, Die A. They pushed in, faces grim. One officer held up a warrant. You're being investigated for theft of evidence and obstruction of an active investigation. Travis froze. The footage, the case files, everything he had just uncovered. They thought he was the one covering something up. The puzzle pieces twisted again. Maddox had been one step ahead the whole time, and now Travis stood alone, his badge suspended, his name under fire, and the dog he loved barely clinging to life. But, even in this false victory, he saw the glint of truth. If Maddox had gone this far to silence Valor, it meant the canine had seen something far more dangerous than anyone realized. And whatever that was, it was still out there, waiting to finish the job. The rain hadn't stopped in days. It washed over the precinct like a silent funeral procession, turning windows to mirrors and the street to sludge. Travis sat alone in his truck, just outside the impound lot where his badge, his weapons, and his credibility now sat, locked in a box. His world had been carved out of certainty, of oaths and loyalty. Now, all of it felt like a lie. He replayed. The internal affairs meeting in his head, the cold eyes, the rehearsed disappointment, the subtle implication that he'd gone rogue. You accessed sealed evidence without authorization. You're being investigated for tampering with a classified case. Until further notice, you are suspended without pay. They said it like he was nothing. And maybe now he was. Valor was still in ICU, sedated, breathing but barely responsive. And Travis was radioactive, tailed, shadowed, buried under whispers. Worse, he had no proof of Maddox. No camera, no footage. His apartment had been swept, the laptop was gone, the puppy disappeared the moment IA showed up. Another hallucination in this orchestrated breakdown. Maddox hadn't just attacked his partner, he'd dismantled everything Travis believed in, and the most bitter truth of all? Someone inside the department was helping him. That's how they moved so quickly. How Maddox always stayed a step ahead. That's how the original case got buried. How Valor's room had been accessed despite hospital security. There was a mole. And Travis had no one left to trust. No one. Except the dog who couldn't even stand on his own anymore. He gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, as thunder rolled overhead. What was the point? Why keep fighting when the system itself was broken? Why try to protect a world that wouldn't protect them back? He pressed his forehead against the wheel, eyes burning. Then something buzzed in the glove box. Travis blinked. He opened it and found a burner phone. Not his. Valor's GPS collar. He'd forgotten he had synced it to an old spare during their last field mission. The tech had been glitchy, off by a few feet, but it still pinged, and now it had activated. But not from the hospital. From outside. City limits. A remote location. Travis stared at the coordinates. Whoever took Valor, whoever had planted the fake scene at the hospital, they hadn't finished their job. Maybe they didn't know about the old collar. Maybe Valor had escaped, or maybe he'd been trying to lead Travis again. Even from a broken body, even from a trap, Valor had still reached out, still believed in him. That was the spark. Travis took a breath, deep, grounding. He wasn't done yet. Maddox wanted a war of shadows? Fine. He was about to get one. Travis followed the tracker through miles of overgrown backroads, deep into a wooded stretch where satellite service stuttered and fog clung to the windshield like regret. Every twist of the steering wheel felt heavier, like he wasn't just driving through geography, he was driving through layers of deception. Then the signal stopped, dead center on a derelict firewatch station. He stepped out. Silence greeted him, thick, wrong, loaded. The trees stood still, too still. Hand resting on his concealed backup Glock, his last unregistered weapon, he ascended. The wooden stairs. Each creak sounded like a memory breaking loose. Inside, dust swirled in fractured beams of light. And then he saw it. Valor, lying in the corner, muzzled, legs trembling, alive, barely. But next to him was a monitor, and on it, footage. Grainy, time-stamped video of the day it all began. Travis pressed play. It was body cam footage, Valor's cam. What played next punched the air out of Travis's lungs. The raid, the warehouse. But not how Travis remembered it. Not at all. The screen showed Maddox planting something. Behind the crates, a small black satchel, unmarked. Then he turned, looked straight into the K9 cam lens and gave a chilling smile. You don't even bark, huh? Good dog. The screen glitched. Then cut to a hallway camera, a new angle. A teenager bound in zip ties. Maddox walked up to him, gun drawn. You didn't see anything, right? The kid didn't speak. Just shook his head, eyes wide. Then the shot. One. Clean bullet. Valor lunged at Maddox, fangs bared. But the senior officer struck him down with a blunt object, hard enough to make the screen spin, static crackling over a desperate yelp. The footage ended. Travis staggered back. It wasn't just corruption, it was cold-blooded execution, witness elimination, evidence tampering. And the department had buried it all. That's why IA had shown up so quickly. That's why they suspended Travis the moment he started digging, because they already knew. They'd always known. And someone high up had helped Maddox erase the trail, but not all of it. Not Valor. That dog, bleeding, beaten, nearly killed, had survived and carried the truth inside him. That's why Maddox tried to kill him at the accident scene. The motorcycle hit. It wasn't random. It wasn't an accident. It was a hit job. The laughing rider had been hired to strike the dog when Travis wasn't looking, but something went wrong. Valor had dodged enough to survive, and now he was the last surviving. Witness to a murder the city thought was buried. Travis felt his hands shaking. He lifted Valor gently, cradling him like a wounded brother. Then a voice rang out from the door behind him. "You just couldn't let it go, could you?" Travis spun, Maddox gun raised, casual, confident. "They're not going to believe you. You're suspended, disgraced. Your own badge turned on you." Travis didn't move. "You've already lost." But Maddox wasn't alone. From behind the trees, shadows emerged. 2 more men armed. It was an ambush, and Travis had walked straight into it. "We clean this up right here," Maddox said. "No more leash dogs sniffing where they don't belong." He raised the gun, but then Valor growled, low, raspy, defiant. He stood. Despite the muzzle, despite the wounds, he stood, and something in that moment shifted. Maddox hesitated, and Travis saw his chance. He ducked, rolled behind the desk, and fired a single round, shattering the monitor. Glass exploded. Smoke filled the air. Valor lunged, muzzle still on, but body full of rage. The other gunman moved to intercept, but Valor hit like a missile, knocking one down the stairs. Travis tackled the second, wrestling the weapon away. It was chaos. Wooden. Boards cracking, gunfire echoing into the trees. Then finally, silence. Only 2 figures stood, Travis and Valor. Maddox lay on the ground, cuffed, face bloodied, eyes wide with hatred. Travis looked down at him. "You messed with the wrong partner." Back at the precinct, things moved fast. The footage from the K9 cam was recovered from a hidden drive inside Valor's vest. He had been carrying the evidence the whole time, a sealed microchip embedded under his collar. A final backup Travis hadn't even known about. The press got wind of it. "Hero K9 dog exposes police cover-up," the headlines screamed. Maddox was charged. The internal mole, Deputy Chief Rollins, was arrested days later, and Travis, he was reinstated, quietly, reluctantly, but he didn't care. He didn't need medals. He just wanted justice, and for the first time in months, he could breathe. Valor lay beside him in the hospital recovery wing, wrapped in fresh bandages, finally resting in peace. The nightmare had cracked, but so had the silence. Travis looked down at his partner, stroking his ears. "You saved them all. And they never even saw you coming." Valor wagged his tail, just once. Enough. 2 weeks later, the city moved on like it always did, fast, forgetful, hungry for the next headline. Travis sat on the back steps of his porch, Valor's head resting in his lap. His wounds had healed more than anyone expected, but the vet warned that Valor would never return to active duty. Didn't matter. He had already done more than any badge could ask for. Travis watched the sun set beyond the skyline, the orange glow soft against his tired eyes. Peace. Finally, until the phone rang, a number with no name. He almost ignored it, but something in his gut twisted. He answered. Silence. Then a voice. Distorted. Synthetic. "You think this is over?" Travis froze. "Maddox was just the front. You pulled one weed, but the roots are deeper. Much deeper." Click. The line went dead. Travis stared at the screen. His hand instinctively moved to Valor's fur. The canine lifted his head, ears alert, as if he'd heard it too, as if he already knew. The war wasn't over. It had just begun. The following morning, Travis was already up before the sunrise. He hadn't slept. Not really. That voice, the message, kept playing on a loop in his head. Not the words themselves, but the certainty behind them. Maddox had just been the front man. the scapegoat. The rot went deeper, like a cancer that learned how to wear a badge. Travis had seen it before, in glimpses. Whispers around locker rooms, files that suddenly disappeared, officers who rose too fast for the wrong reasons, but now it was personal. He glanced down at Valor, still curled on the floor by the fire, tail flicking in restless dreams. Even in sleep, his body twitched. A growl here, a whimper there. Travis reached down and ran a hand through his coarse fur. "We're not done, are we, buddy?" Valor opened one eye, no bark, no sound, just a slow, knowing look, like he understood every word. 6 weeks later, Internal Affairs. Tribunal, the courtroom, buzzed with a strange, tense energy. Unlike last time, there were no angry protesters outside, no reporters swarming for answers. Everything was being kept quiet, too quiet. Travis walked in wearing his uniform for the first time in months. It felt foreign on his skin, but his mind was sharp, files in his arm, drive in his coat pocket, Valor trotting beside him, not as a canine, but as something more sacred, a survivor, a witness no one had counted on. The tribunal was made up of 7 people, some familiar faces from Internal Affairs, others unknown. A few eyes narrowed when they saw him, but none said a word. "Officer Travis Cade, you may proceed." He stood tall and began his presentation. No theatrics, no speeches, just facts. Time-stamped body cam footage, forensic reports matching Maddox's, bullets to the crime scene, corrupt chain of command approvals stamped without oversight, and more, deep audit trails showing payoffs from a local contractor tied to narcotics laundering. Every name had a badge. By the time he was done, the silence in the room was leaden, but he wasn't finished. He pressed a final button. A silent video appeared, surveillance from the warehouse archives, uncovered weeks after the tribunal began. A clip of a uniformed officer, face mostly hidden under a riot visor, shooting the teenager, zoom in frame by frame, and then a mirrored window. Just for a second, a reflection. Play that back. The audience leaned forward. There, in that tiny, flickering glass, was the unmistakable face of Deputy Chief Rollins. The room gasped. No one could spin it now. The rot was at the top. Later that day, Travis didn't stay to see the verdicts. He knew how it would go. He and Valor slipped out through the side hallway, down the old concrete stairwell, and into the cold air outside. He paused at the steps, looking up at the grey sky. Rain again. A slow, quiet drizzle, like the world was, trying to wash off years of blood and lies. He crouched beside Valor, both of them silent. Then footsteps behind him. It was Officer Daniela Ruiz. She'd been one of the only people who believed him when everyone else turned. "They're cleaning house," she said quietly. "Rollins is being booked tonight. The mayor's in damage control. You broke something wide open, Travis." He gave a tired nod. "Doesn't feel like a win." Daniela looked at Valor. "He did more than any of us ever could." "That dog deserves a medal." Travis shook his head slowly. "He doesn't need one, he already knows." They both stood in silence for a moment. Then Daniela pulled something out of her coat, a letter. The seal had already been broken. "What's this?" "From the DA, you're being offered early retirement. Full honors. Valor, too. They say they want to preserve your legacy before the media storm hits." Travis held the letter. He didn't open it, he didn't have to. They wanted him gone before he dug deeper, but he also knew they couldn't stop him now. 3 months later, somewhere quiet. They found a small place up north, a fenced yard. No, neighbors, just pine trees, birds, and silence. Valor ran more now, slowly but with more joy than ever. He chased shadows, he barked at butterflies, he slept in the sun like the nightmares never touched him. And Travis, he'd started writing. Not fiction, testimony. He began documenting every case that had been buried, every whisper, every file he was never supposed to see. He created an anonymous channel online. Encryption. Hidden layers. The truth would be shared, piece by piece, and Valor was there for all of it, every keystroke, every memory. They were a team. Still always. One morning. A knock at the door. It came at dawn. 3 sharp knocks. Travis paused, looked at Valor, who had already stood, tail stiff, ears sharp. He reached the door slowly, opened it. There was no one. There, just a small box. He brought it inside, laid it on the table. Inside, a single collar old Aunt leather worn, but unmistakable. The tag read, K9 Valor, Service Active, and a note underneath, for the ones who see the unseen. We're not all blind, keep going. No signature, just an unmarked thumb drive taped to the bottom. That evening, Travis watched Valor run in wide, slow arcs through the fading golden light. He smiled. Not because it was over, but because it wasn't. Because there was more to uncover, more to protect, and together they would keep going, not as a cop and a K9, not as a soldier and a dog, but as survivors, as truth-bearers, as the last line no one expected, and sometimes that's all it takes.